When I first got into Vagabond, I could immediately tell it was special. The art is just straight up brilliant, it looks very realistic, and honestly it's not something you usually see within anime and manga. And it's kind of funny how I found Vagabond, because it was through another series called Record of Ragnarok, and a character within that called Sasaki Kojiro. That led me to finding some art by Vagabond, and like I said, it's brilliant. And Vagabond has also introduced me to other works by Takahiko Inoue. Slam Dunk and Real, and those are both great stories. I want to do a video over both of them. But getting into the story of Vagabond, I was already very attracted to it because anything to do with swords and swordsmen, it's just very awesome to me. But what kept me around was how the story treated its characters, and mainly how it treated Musashi. I feel that in the early chapters, a lot of emphasis is placed on reflection and, just taking a step back and looking at yourself. And that really comes into play when we meet the priest, Takuan. Throughout the story, as Musashi grows, we see him reflect on himself more and more in order to meet his goal of becoming invincible under the heavens. So, reflecting on yourself really is a major theme in Vagabond, and definitely one of its key strengths that I kept seeing time and time again throughout the story. And one of the first big fights where you get to see this is Musashi versus Inshun. It's the first fight where we see Musashi showing signs of fear, and you kind of get to realize that he's been using rage and anger and all that to chase that fear off. And throughout the first and the second fight he has with Inshun, he comes to realize and learn how powerful having a clear mind can be. It was just a great fight to see, and it's kind of crazy when you think that not a whole lot happened within the fight, and just seeing Inshun's backstory and the stuff he has buried deep in his mind, and just his childhood. It was just such a great fight to show off what Vagabond is really about. As the story continues though, Musashi undergoes immense growth and just a lot of change. Musashi's meeting with the head of the Yagyu clan and his battle with the Yoshioka school, and how all that makes him think differently about his goal of becoming invincible under the heavens. You really start to notice that Vagabond goes from a story about some swordsman trying to become strong and more about how Musashi is going to live his life and the point of life. And one of my favorite pieces of dialogue throughout Vagabond is when the head of the Yagyu clan, the old dude, tells Musashi that invincible is just a word and strength is an illusion, a heat haze. I'm not gonna lie, it does sound kind of corny, but it's such a huge turning point in the story because it holds so much importance for what Musashi is trying to achieve and makes it seem everything he's struggled for up until this point, or up until that point, was for nothing. And then going forward to Musashi's battle with the Yoshioka school, you can say that battle is where Musashi became invincible under the heavens, because no one has achieved that sort of thing or that feat of defeating so many people. And it's in that fight where we see a very, very clear change in Musashi and his way of thinking about being invincible and just his goal in general. Everything he's been doing up until that point. I don't remember too clearly, but I'm pretty sure it was around this point in the story where Sasaki Kojiro gets introduced, and getting to see his backstory is just so awesome. I love Kojiro. And Kojiro's relationship with his, father, his adoptive father, it's such a beautiful thing we get to see. And as Kojiro grows older, you start to pick up on the fact that Kojiro, he really finds joy in the sword. And that really goes to highlight the key difference between him and Musashi. Kojiro helped me realize that Musashi mostly used the sword as something to hide behind. And this kind of ties in with the resentment and fear he holds towards his father. And when you compare that to Kojiro, who uses the sword as a way to connect with people on a deeper level, you kind of get something very beautiful and poetic. Kojiro also really just has such a huge effect on Musashi, and teaching him that using fear and anger to fight, it can kind of weaken you, and kind of paints the picture that if Musashi and Kojiro fight, the fear and anger Musashi holds in his sword will disappear as Kojiro and Musashi Musashi kind of form a deeper connection, not something made out of hate. Another thing I want to talk about is not only one of my favorite arcs within Vagabond, but also probably one of the most important, and that is Vagabond's Farmland arc. What makes this one of my favorite arcs in Vagabond is that it puts Musashi in the world of the weak, and seeing as Musashi only strive to be the strongest, this arc really teaches Musashi humility, and he slowly starts to show it throughout this arc. I think it's very easy to point out that Musashi is a very stoic type of character with what we've seen of him throughout most of the story, but within the Farmland arc, we get to see that character kind of be broken down and replaced with something else. Musashi starts to smile, and not only that, but also begins to see everything around him, not just the strong, but also the weak. And this ties in with Musashi's friend, Matahachi, who is probably one of the biggest scumbags in manga ever, and the path that he's been following throughout the entire story, and that is being weak. Musashi starts to learn that being kind is a strength, and taking a step back, not obsessing over who's the strongest or being strong, and just helping some people of a random village helps him figure that out. And this really plays into the story of Vagabond, because it's really only when Musashi isn't fighting that he matures a lot and grows a lot. And it's after Musashi's time at the village where we kind of see Musashi's whole character get completed, and really the only thing we have left within Vagabond has to be the fight between Kojiro and Musashi. But then Vagabond went on hiatus, so luckily though, I have heard that Inoue wants to return to writing Vagabond, which honestly, that would just be so great. We've had Berserk returning, we've had Hunter x Hunter returning this year, so who knows, maybe next year we'll see Vagabond return. But there isn't really an announcement for a return date or anything, so who knows when Vagabond will come back or if Vagabond will come back. But yeah, it would be very, very awesome if it did. But there was something else that popped up with Vagabond, I think it was last year, and that was Vagabond's final exhibition. And this final exhibition is all about Musashi going into the afterlife, or his final moments on Earth, and coming to peace with everything he's gone through in his life, making peace with his father, his mother, Otsu, and Jotaro, and also Kojiro. And it's just some very impactful closure to all of Vagabond, and kind of makes you ask yourself if Vagabond even needs to return. Obviously it would be awesome, but yeah, the final exhibition just ties up things so nicely. And yeah, the final exhibition is just so symbolic, and it's all about picking out thorns out of Musashi's soul, I guess like his final stage of enlightenment. I find Vagabond to be very amazing, enjoyable, and Musashi's growth throughout the series is just unrivaled under the heaven. No, I'm just kidding. It has to be some of the best character writing within manga, and that sounds very pretentious, I know, but that's just the way I feel about it. Vagabond is able to put its focus on kind of a smaller cast than what you would see in other manga and anime, and really is able to focus on that cast so much throughout the story and tackle different aspects of the characters. I guess that's really the key to Vagabond's strength and why it's such a good story. I do hope it returns at some point. That would just be so great. But with that said, thanks for watching, have a good day, and peace.